Welcome back to BL Trails and Tales. Today I'm going to talk about what we all talk about sometimes is how we grew up and how people are growing up now. Kids are growing up now. Some of my experience with kids and whatnot. I raised 4 boys and that's obviously a handful too. But got a lot of experience with other kids and I guess other people's kids. And anyway, what I want to talk to you about is how we grew up and how kids are growing up now, and it's totally different. I don't know what your age is when you're watching this, but if you're 20 to 30 or 30 to 40 or 40 to 50 or 50 to 60 or more, we all have a big difference on how we grew up and how we were raised. And obviously, if you were raised in a rural atmosphere, a city atmosphere or whatnot, you definitely grew up different than people that were raised in the country or a ranch or farm and something like that. And it's just a fact. It's not good or bad. It's just is what it is. But everybody grows up different, and I'll tell you how I grew up and the people I was around, and we'll tell obviously many stories about those kids that I grew up with and how they grew up into be young adults, and I just real quick, I guess I'll brag or give you some information that I grew up with kids in a couple of families that were very poor. Very poor, as in mother working in a restaurant and bringing food back from the restaurant to feed the kids. I was actually in their house one time, and four big boys. They were scrapping kids, and I was there, and they were out. 3 of them were out hunting for deer down on the river to get something to eat. And my friend and I were inside the house, and he said, "You hungry?" I said, "Well, yeah, I'm hungry." And so he says he looked around the house and he found 2 pieces of bread, or maybe 4 pieces of bread. I don't remember. It was a couple pieces of bread, and went over and found some sugar, and so we had a sugar sandwich, and that was all there was to eat in that house. What I'm going to say is they became multimillionaires, and I think it's mostly through work ethic and it wasn't a college education, it wasn't anything like that. It was just put your nose to the grindstone, and they worked in the oil field and they made a lot of money, and then sold the company and retired and did very well. And the circumstances that we grew up in doesn't make who we are in life. Everybody has a chance. It doesn't matter how rich or poor, how affluent or your circumstances, whether you were raised in the country or city or whatnot. So what I'm going to tell you right now is the story. No, I'm not going to tell that story. I'm going to save it for later. But I've been riding since I was 2.5 years old, and so that'll give you a little bit of insight into how I was raised. When we grew up, obviously, I'm old, and so every year we walked to school in a snowstorm, and it was 4 feet of snow, and it was uphill all the way to school, and it was uphill all the way back house, right? And it was 40 below. Well, now, okay, that's an exaggeration sometimes, but sometimes it's really not. It gets pretty close to that. But anyway, the way I grew up was around friends and family. I had some close friends, and I'll tell you about them. And one of them is world famous horse trainer, whisperer, and has written a couple of books, and is up in Moran, Wyoming, and I'll put a plug in for him here one of these days, or give you his link. Excellent young man, but we grew up different, and and as time evolved, we also changed. And but anyway, we grew up working. I mean, that's what we did. We worked hard. We grew up in a place where there was our folks ranched and raised fruit, and we worked hard in the peach orchard. And I mean, it was from at the time, well, probably by the time you were 5, 6 years old, you was working out there some, and by the time you were 8 or 9, you were working out there probably 30 hours a week. And after that, you got time off. Okay, school and sports. School and homework was probably not a priority for all of us, obviously. If it wasn't for some girlfriends and them doing my homework, I'd have never got through school. And I appreciate them. If you're listening to this, I do. Got me there. But what we did do is we worked hard, we played hard. When we were scrapping little kids, we worked hard, physically hard, during the summer and stuff. We sweated, we worked hard. Even after school, we'd come back, we'd have chores to do and work to do after school. We got back and you would work with your father and your grandfather after school for a couple hours until it got dark, and then you go in and it would be supper time. I don't think that, well, I know kids like that do not exist. I mean, there's some on a ranch, maybe kind of, sort of, that have that kind of lifestyle, but for the most part, nobody does. And the kids, my kids, that they want to, they worked as much as I could possibly make them work as kids, and they'll tell you that, I was a slave driver, that's for sure. But I wasn't, but they did have to work, and they enjoyed it. They fought, they fought, and they had arguments and in working and whatnot. But they grew up and they grew together, and they grew to understand the meaning of work and committing yourself to doing a job when you're asked to do a job. We did that. Obviously, our parents were that way when we were growing up, and I'm just saying this until we were like 10 years old, that we knew how to work. And when we came home, we went to work, and on Saturdays and Sundays, I mean, we would, when needed, we would also work, and most of the weekend we did work. But what we did is that we also played hard. We did not have any electronics, all right? I mean, obviously, we were still lucky to have a phone where it wasn't a party line, okay? It was pick it up, dial it, maybe somebody's on there and say, excuse me, and I'll call back. So you had to hang up, and you were really affluent, really up class when you got a telephone that you had your own private line to. So that was a little bit different than cell phones that we got today, and the technology that those cell phones have is actually scary. And I didn't let my kids have cell phones when they were kids. They ended up acquiring them out of different reasons, but I don't think it's good. And I think that kids need to be able to play together. I mean, how many people know how to play kick the can, hide and go seek, Red Robin, tons of other stuff, the statue, what is it, Simon Says, and other games that were played outside in the evening with a bunch of kids that just gathered around, and we played physical games outside together with people, with kids. We weren't on the internet. We weren't playing a video game with somebody by myself, or with some group, or with some of your friends, and you're all on some kind of app to where you all play this shoot 'em up and kill 'em and army type deal. We didn't have that, and I honestly don't think it's good now. I don't. It's not social. It is not. And the video games you got now that kill people, blow people up, cut them up, slice them up. It's gory, and I think it's wrong. We grew up to respect life because we knew what it was to take life. I mean, we hunted, when we were kids, we got BB guns, we killed birds. I mean, that was one of the things I went and did a bunch during the winter. Right after Christmas, you get a BB gun. So you went out and you started shooting sparrows and snowbirds and whatnot because it was hunting, and that's what you did, you hunted. But we also learned that when you pull that trigger and you hit something and it dies, it's dead. You don't get a second life, you don't get new credits and stuff like this. That's an actual life. And so I was very proud of the birds I got. I look at this one, this was beautiful, and whatnot. And there was abundance of them. I mean, I wasn't going to make them extinct or anything like that. And you can judge me whether it's right or wrong to be shooting Tweety birds, but that's what we did. And then we rode. We rode for recreation, for pastime. We never stood still as kids. We weren't inside. I mean, we didn't have air conditioning. If it was hot outside, the house was hot, okay? If you wanted to cool off, before you went to bed, you went down to the canal with your dad and your brothers and sisters and whatnot, and you jumped in the canal and you soaked in there for a while till you got cool, and then you'd go back up to the house and you'd lay down on a towel or something like that, so you'd have a wet towel. Oh, I got horses out there. I'm sorry, I got a couple of youngsters out there in the round pen, and one of them just kicked up a little bit at the wind. He's educating himself slowly. But anyway, I don't think kids don't do that anymore, and they don't socialize. They don't work. They don't understand sacrifice at times, or even we didn't even know we were sacrificing. I don't think. We thought it was just life and the way it was supposed to be, because we swam, and we all swam in canals, and we had one of the best, if not the best, swimming canal and area in the nation. I mean, there wasn't anything better in the whole world. There was nothing better than the Clark's place there, in Palisade, because we had two bridges. And the two bridges were spanned about, I don't know, probably maybe 100 yards apart, the way they were. And they were old bridges, and they had pillars underneath them. So you'd have two rows of pillars underneath these bridges in the canal to hold them up, right? And those pillars were out of big old logs, timbers or whatever, about yay big around. And they were probably about 3 feet apart, and you had boards, holding them up. I mean, these were stout old bridges. They were meant to be there for a while, but they were wood on top, right? And so they had wood planks. Well, when it got modern, and they changed our gravel dirt road into a paved road, they paved that bridge too. And that was too cool, because I don't know if you know this, but when pavement, and especially then, I guess maybe they're special when they put it across the bridge, but it would get in the summer and traffic would go over it, it would be more rubber right there in those tire tracks than anything else. And we would lay down there in those tire tracks on the bridge. When we were kids, I mean, we'd be swimming in the canal, we'd be freezing to death, and we'd get up there and the sun would be out, and that blacktop was hot, and we'd lay down there on that blacktop, and the water and stuff would cool down the blacktop enough to where we could get in, but it was warm enough for us to warm up to where we could go play again. And what we played was tag. We learned to swim in canals and rivers. We didn't have a swimming pool. I don't know when the first time I went to a swimming pool, but I'll tell you a story about that later too. I'm not a bad swimmer. I was, yeah. Well, nobody that grew up in a canal and swam in a canal or swam in a river, you know, they were salty. They were pretty good swimmers. And anyway, playing tag. Tag was a great game because we built diving boards above the bridge on the canal. We put a diving board into the bank. All right. So we had a diving board above that bridge. Right below that bridge, we put in another diving board. And then we had two big trees that were hanging over the top of that canal, and we could put rope swings on there with sacks, so we could have two rope swings. I mean, this was a paradise for kids to come play. I mean, you can't go to an amusement park and get that kind of thing. Well, if you did, they'd probably make you wear helmets and life preservers or something like that. Actually, when I had life preserver because I was the youngest of all them kids that was playing in the canal, and they thought it was great fun, you know, for me to be it, because I couldn't catch nobody because my dad made me wear a life jacket, a life preserver, when they weren't around. And because I was young, I don't know what I was, 7, 8, 9 years old, probably like that, when I was still wearing that life vest. But we were playing there on the canal, and they thought it was great fun. My brothers, my friends, my cousins, and I was the youngest, and so when I was it, I mean, I was it for a long time. I just worked and worked and worked at it. But that's okay. It was all fun. You could hide underneath the bridge. You could dive down into the rocks or to the bottom of the canal, pick up or grab a hold of a rock and sit there until somebody that was, you know, chasing you floated by or whatnot. So we learned to swim. Physically, I guess physically we were extremely strong because we were active even when we weren't working. Our play was a whole bunch of work, and I don't know how much workout you get when you're on some kind of video game, and yeah, you get maybe you got really good developed thumbs. I don't know, and maybe your mind's quicker too. But I'll guarantee you're not in physical shape like we were. There was probably like 8% fat on our body if there was that. But anyway, we had a ton of fun. I was telling you about that life preserver and whatnot, and I couldn't catch. I'd spend hours working trying to catch my brother and friends and whatnot, and once in a while I'd get lucky and because I could run pretty quick and oh, by the way, you were barefoot, you know, the whole time, and you're running across gravel and goat heads and whatnot. Our feet got so tough on the bottom of them that yeah, I could run through goat heads, and okay, you know, you feel something, but at the end of the day, you pick out the goat head that was broke off or whatnot, and so anyway, it was a little bit different. My life vest. I'm going to end here pretty quick, so you just stay with me. But to tell you the difference between the way we grew up, Mom and Dad trusted us to play down there and to be safe and have a good time and come back alive, right? And for me, they put that vest on me. Well, I took it off one time when we got up there on the bridge, and it had rails on there, wood rails, and I took the life vest off, and I was going to lay down there on the pavement there and get warmed up. Well, it fell off, and I don't know, somebody hit it or something, knocked by, and it went in the canal. So I went over there to look at, you know, what in the world, and there goes my life vest down the canal, right? And it goes down, and then it just goes, it sank. My life vest was not a life, it was not a life preserver. It was a weight around me, and so after that, I didn't have to wear that anymore. And you know what? My swimming got a whole lot better. And when I dove and stuff, I didn't just kind of hit the water and stop. Yeah, I could go catch somebody then. So it made a lot of difference. It was a lot of fun. Part of how we grew up and how we're different than the generation we have now. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I think it made us and it made this nation what it is. And I'm frankly scared for the kids that are growing up now, and how they'll pursue and deal with obstacles in their life. Do they have the fortitude? I mean, I don't know if video game gives you the fortitude to forge on, to persevere, to overcome obstacles in your life. But I know we were blessed with it, and yeah, I just hope that kids and grandkids and great grandkids will have the opportunity not to do exactly what we did, because that's in the past, and that's a foregone error. It's not coming back. They got signs on the canal now that you can't swim, you know. Of course, that doesn't stop me and my brother. Yeah, we'll go up there and throw me in jail. I got in the canal. Sue me, you know. But anyway, I just hope if you're watching this, you have a good time. I hope you subscribe. I hope you keep with me. Give me some ideas. What do you want to hear? I got too many stories. Give me a comment. Let me know. I'll try to address it. And we'll just keep telling stories, because I've got a never-ending bunch of them. So anyway, I got to get to work on this. If you're not familiar with that, that is a horn wrap off of a rope and steer, and it's broken. I'm going to sew it up and fix it, because I know how to do that. Bye.